Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, viewers of all ages. Good day to you, and welcome back to the channel. Glad you guys are here. As always, I am super glad to be here. We are returning to this Ls4 engine build that stemmed from a camshaft swap. You guys know the drill by now. Last episode, we got the crankshaft installed. It's kind of ready to rock and roll. I would like to go ahead and throw in the pistons. We'll pull this cam gear back off and then I'll set the chain up later on. But I left that off in order to be able to turn this thing with ease. I think I will start with getting the rear engine cover installed. That encompasses the rear main seal. It's gonna bolt on, it's gonna cover up the cam, it's gonna cover the crank. And once that guy is in, I believe we'll move on to the pistons, but let's get that cover on there just to get the cam covered up. That way everything's nice and safe and secure and will not receive any dirt and dust contaminations. Now, when I do the rear seals on these LS engines, I always change out the cover. Reason being is this cover also has a gasket. You can replace just the seal, but you've got to pull the seal out from the cover and then drive the new seal in. But when you're doing that job, if you're pulling the transmission out just to get access to it, why not just spend the extra 50 bucks and get the entire cover assembly, which comes with new bolts, by the way. So you get a new perimeter seal and you get a new crankshaft seal. So I always get the seals with the covers, then we don't have to worry about the seal going in incorrectly or tearing it or causing it to leak. And we also don't have to worry about misdiagnosing the leak, because on occasion you can have this area leaking and it leaks oil down and then runs out of the sides, so you think you've got a rear main seal leak, but you actually have a rear cover gasket leak. So I always change the covers when the rear main seal is leaking. It's just that is the way, and that's how I do it. Now, usually when I perform this particular operation, the engine is still in the vehicle and I have to remove the transmission. In this particular case, the engine's out of the vehicle, so is the transmission, in fact. But usually I'm doing this a different way, and I'm usually doing it from the pointed the other direction. So the engine's inverted right now, slightly outside of the norm, but I think I'll be all right with it. Take a look right here. See this piece of plastic? That's designed to keep the seal spread open so we can slide it over the end of the crankshaft. See that right there? That's how we get that unit on without damaging the seal on the crank. So now I'm just going to run these bolts in so this plate stays in position, and then that cover will be good to go. I've got a like a wobble drive 13 mil. We'll put that on the little electron impact gun in a moment, and we'll run this thing down some. Just want to get some bolts in it so it stays put. It doesn't want to pop back off. That should be good. Some of them I've probably got to do by hand, if memory serves. Now, I'm not going to torque these down all the way because we need the oil pan in position to apply the proper torque sequence to this cover. Reason being, if this cover is off slightly, like let's say it's raised up a little bit or pushed down a little bit, when we go to seal that against the oil pan, it could either have a gap between the cover and the pan, or it can push the pan outward and leave a gap right here, which would cause a massive leak. So basically you have to tighten down the pan first, then you can tighten down the front and rear covers. That is the order of operations. And if one were to violate said order of operations, you may be doing the job again. And nobody wants to do this twice. Yeah, these last two fasteners in here, I don't know. Pretty sharp angle for my wobble. We'll see if I can get that last one. I'm like almost running this swivel at like 90 degrees. Yeah, we'll call it 50 degrees. There we go. 90 is a little bit too extreme, I'd say. Okay, that unit's in. Let's get the pistons installed. Here we go. Okay, let's roll the table on over. Bring the pistons closer to the block. And we will we'll roll that engine over so the crank's at the bottom, then we can drop the pistons down into their respective cylinders. Okay, so we can see here, this is the orientation that the block was in when the pistons came out of it. So, got these guys kind of in order here. Here's the front two, second two, middle two, fourth two. This piston is going to go on this bank here. These pistons go on this bank here. So when we roll this over, these pistons are going to go on this side, and those pistons will go on that side. It's a little bit inverted. We can see on the top of these pistons here, that little indentation that indicates that points towards the front of the engine block. So that is the direction and orientation that these units must be reinstalled in. So let's get this thing rolled over and flipped into its correct direction here. Then we can go ahead and get the tool out, the ring compressor. We can get this engine a little bit more put back together-ish. And we'll start right there. I have here a conical piston ring compressor. It's bored out in the internal diameter at 3.780 inches. So the bottom, which is the thick side, there's actually like a taper on these. So you'll slide the piston into it. As the piston slides down this tool, it will be compressing those rings, and it compresses them to the same diameter as the inside of the bore. You just pop them back in, and then they are in the correct orientation and position. Now, in order to avoid marring up the crankshaft journals, we got to make sure that the journal is the crank is at the bottom of its throw for each corresponding piston that we are installing. Does that make sense? Good. So here, let's apply some lubricant to all these piston walls right here. Go down and be quite generous with our lube. I'll throw some lube on the pistons and the rings as well. That way we get a nice smoke show on our first startup. There we go. That should be good. A little bit of lube inside of the ring compressor as well. Beautiful. Okay, taking a quick peek inside of these pistons at the wrist pin. We can see I've dropped in some penetrating lube, some assembly lube. That's some of the Ultra Slick. I have not lubricated the piston to wrist pin surfaces yet. I'll use regular engine oil for that, but I did want to get in there with some assembly lube on those on the pin to rod surfaces. So we've got partial lube on the pistons. I'm going to drip some regular engine oil in, make sure all that stuff is free and clear. Then we're going to bust out the connecting rod bearings to the crank, re-bearing all these rods, and then we're going to drop them in, starting with this piston right here going into that hole right there. Here, let's throw some more oil on our ring compressor here. It's just some 2-stroke oil. I figured that would be sufficient since it lubricates pistons while the engine's running. We can certainly lubricate them while it's not running, right? A little bit right there on the bore. Okay, so here's our piston in question. This is the one I think we're going on it's either number 8 or number 7. I think that's number 8. We'll throw some oil on the rings, being quite generous with said oil. I don't know if you can use 2-stroke oil as an assembly lube for piston rings, but I'm doing it. Got a new bearing in there in the bottom of the rod. So we'll throw some assembly lube on that bearing surface there. Spread that around nice and even like. Okay, so with our dot pointed forward towards us, front of the engine, we can slide this piston down into the ring compressor like so. Let's make it stick out some so we can line it up in the bore of the block properly. There we go, like that. Just kind of tap it on down. Now I'm gonna reach around, it's raining, pardon the loud noises. I'm gonna reach around and grab a hold of the bottom of that connecting rod in order to guide it onto the crankshaft without any kind of interference. So I'm gonna take the end of this mallet and we're just gonna send this piston down. By the way, I've also rechecked all of these for the proper ring spacing clock. Because remember how we had to put the rings in different locations around the piston? Those are all oriented properly. Ooh, that rain's getting a little loud. How's that sound with the noise canceling turned off? Is that okay? Or should I have turned on noise canceling for the rain? All right, let's feed the cap down in there. There's our cap, new bearing. And it has assembly lube already on it. Got the 11 mil. Now I'm not going to torque any of these just yet. We're just getting them all installed first, okay? Okay, that one's good. Now, let's come on out. I'm gonna turn this crank around and we're gonna make sure that that piston is moving freely. Looks like it. Drop my wrench. Let's see how this piston runs as we turn the crank. I'm feeling for binding or anything of that nature, and that appears to be moving quite smoothly. I like it. Very good. Okay, let's get the next one that's in order, which is probably going to be, we'll do number 7 over here. So let's give it a flip one more time. I know we were supposed to start front to back. I'm breaking all the rules and I'm doing this one back to front, but you know, it is what it is. That's the way I took it apart. That's the way I want to put it back together. So we roll her over and we'll drop number 7 down right here. So ring compressor. Put that in position. Number 7 piston. Let me throw a bearing in there and we'll drop that in the hole next. It's a little dark with this rainstorm coming through. A bit of lube on here. Yeah, this thing's gonna smoke like a freight train when I put it back together. But that's okay. I will live with it. Rings look good. Pull the cap off. Come on, cap. A little bit of oil on the wrist pin. That's free. It's running through. See that? It's already on the other side. Give it a turn. Looking good. Pop out this bearing real quick like. Sorry for the long shadows, folks. It's kind of dark. Nice and shiny. Slide this big end of the rod down. We'll get the skirt of the pistons inside of the bore. Now it's all lined up. So we'll take the mallet, send it in some, and I'm again reaching around on the bottom side so I can guide that rod over the crank journal without marring it up. So if we put a nick in it, it's over. We're done. Okay, that piston is in the hole. So let's guide it onto the crank. Coming down. Yep, there is the journal, and here comes the connecting rod right there. Okay, so I know the light is leaving a little bit wanting, but bear with me. I'm knocking this piston down. Got the little end of the hammer here, running it down. We need to guide this guy right on to our crankshaft journal, a little bit at a time, one tap at a time. There we go, we got it. Okay, so let's roll the block around again, and we will throw the cap on that next unit. Oh, heavy. There it is right there. Now there's enough friction on that piston where it's not going to fall out of here, so no worries on that front. Okay, same procedure, new bearing. Drop that guy down. A little bit of tightness on there. There we go. Throw some 2-smoke oil in it just for fun. And let's go ahead and give it a rotation. Yep, feels good, looking good. So far, so good. I like it. Let's move on to the next ones. So, take this engine, roll it back around one more time. There we go. So on this piston here, the crank is at the bottom of its throw. So we just need to drop this guy on in. Let me flip that over some. Hope I didn't mess with anybody's vertigo on that little last maneuver there. Alrighty. So we'll drop it on in and wiggle it down. Again, compressing those piston rings into their grooves. And we're waiting for some of this unit, the skirt, to stick out. Line the dot up, pointing forward. Drop it down. And tap it on in. Where's my hammer? It's over here. Found it. And left side reaching down to get a hold of the bottom of the rod to guide it onto the crankshaft. There we go. We're on the crank. Beautiful. Rod cap coming in. Again, new bearing. Figure out which side went where. No, not that way. Got that bass backwards, didn't I? It goes this way. There we go. Little bit of torque on this unit, and then just like the other two attempts, we're gonna grab the crankshaft at the bolt, spin this thing around some, make sure it's free and clear and not binding. Oh yeah, smooth as butter. I like it. Gravity, wrench, gravitas. Let's get this piston next. I don't want to go left, right, left, right, left, right. Let's just go from back to front and do one side at a time. That's easier because then I don't have to calculate which one went where. I think we'll do that. Set that guy in position. Let me get this next one set up with a bearing in it and we'll drop it in the hole. So I'm really hoping this whole thing's not stupidly loud because I do not have the noise canceling feature turned on this my audio system here, so I'm either hoping the rain sound is therapeutic or we did a bad job. Anyway, there's a new bearing, compressed rings, dropping it in the hole, lining up the skirt, and hammer time. Again, I reach around with the backside and guide the rod over the journal on the crank. Pistons in, send it down some.
Send it down a lot.
There we go. You know, I think I can go ahead and roll this over right where it's at. I don't even have to move you guys. Give it a flip. There's our rod and our other piston yet again. New cap. A little bit of lube. Clean pinky finger. Yep, wrong way. Okay, that's good. Same as with the others, I'm gonna go ahead and spin it around. Make sure everything rotates free and I don't feel any binding or any weird stuff like that. That's good. So let's get the one up front here. Grab it, roll it around. There it is, it's good. Let's drop her in the compressor. Start sliding it through. I love this type of ring compressor. It's way better than the old banded style ones. You wrapped a band around it and then had to tighten it up. This is much, much easier. And it's less risky. You can, the band style ones, you can get them wrong. Then you end up hurting your piston rings and you gotta pull it all apart and do it again. Never fun. Look at that. Just popped it right into position. Contact. Let's go ahead and get our cap in position. And again, these only go one way. You can't get them backwards unless you're silly. Let's give it a rotation real quick, like. Make sure it all feels good. Oh yeah. Gorgeous. Okay, flipping her over again. That's one side, gravity. One side is in, the other side is in 3/4 of the way. So, we've just got a couple more of these slugs to install. Then we can begin the torquing sequence. Okay, next victim coming into position here. Let's go ahead and slide it on into the compressor. Look at it from the back side. The bottom view. We got a bearing in there with some lubricant. There's our dot pointing forward. We check the orientation of the crank. That's at the bottom. That's good. So we can drop her on down. gravity of the flashlight variety. And I'm reaching down, again, guiding this thing into position here. Let's flip it. Let's give it a turn here. It's a little sideways there. It was slightly rotated. Meeting the crank. Right there, we're on the crank, good. So again, let's give this thing a bit of a turn here. That one, we're at a weird angle. I can't get to the bolt here, so we need to turn the crankshaft to turn that bottom of that rod there to get it at the right orientation. Uh-oh, epic fail. Error, error, error. Check this out. The bearing started walking its way out. See the bearing right there? I need to push this piston back in and get that bearing set up in the rod again. Surgery. There we go. That's it. Okay. Cap coming in, new bearing. Just like so. Pre-click. All right, so one more crank rotation. Let's make sure everything's feeling good and loose and all that good stuff. I believe that is accurate. Yeah, that's 6 down, folks. 2 to go. Pull this through some, compressing. I'm getting a little faster at it now that we know the order of correct operations here. Okay. That's on the crank. Let me spin the assembly over. I know you guys couldn't see, but I could feel it. There she is. Okay, dropping the rod in, or the rod cap rather, cap. I'm not very good at remembering my nouns. Excellent. That one's in. That's I think that's 7 units, right? Should have one more to go. Okay. Rod's at the bottom. We're gonna roll it over again one more time here. There she is. And again, there's our new bearing. Drop some lube into it. A little lubricant. And dot facing forward. Sliding that guy on our compressor like so. Down in the hole. Okay, let's flip her around. And I'm trying to find, I've got my finger on the rod down there so it can't flop and hit something. There she is. Let's bring it home the rest of the way. Okay, that's it. Okay, one more cap. Drop some lube in there, fresh new bearing. Again. Ooh, baby, baby. Almost there. Okay, that one's in. Let's give it a turn as per the established protocol once more. Spin it around. Very good. I like it. So, now to ensure that there is some adequate lubrication on all the piston rings, we're going to put excessive lubrication on all the piston rings. A little bit of oil in there. Yeah, I realize that's a lot. I'll give it a wipe. But what I'm going to do, run this thing around so that oil gets nice and dispersed. Yeah, nice and oil soaked. That's what I'm looking for. Let's lean it back this way so that oil can drain towards this side of these pistons here. See how it's kind of running over. Stay. All right, those are about as oil soaked as they're gonna get, I think. See that? It's a lot of lubrication. Give it a wipe. Next one up. Wipe off all that excess. Yeah, right there is good. Thank you, sir. Get that next one there. And I'd say we are lubricated on this side. Let's go ahead and roll her around here. Do the same thing, throw some oil in it. There we go. Let it soak around. There, now you can see. Pardon me. All right, boys, there she is. Set of pistons installed. Looking good too. I think that's so pretty. All nice and shiny like. Very good. Except for that little bit of carbon right there that won't come off. Yeah, now it will. Wrench cleaning. I clean your pistons with my wrench. Beautiful. Okie doke, so next step is to get this engine flipped back over one more time, and we need to go through and apply torque with the clicky wrench to each of the individual bolts for those connecting rod caps. There we go. Need some lube on the shaft right there. All right, guys, now we need to move on to torquing the connecting rod caps. I have the specifications pulled up right here, connecting rod caps. It says, if possible, or use a synchronous technique as possible, use new bolts. I have installed these many times using the original bolts. This is the only piece of literature that I have found that says use new bolts. And the general consensus amongst the internet also states that you can reuse the old bolts. So in this particular case, since we're already over budget, we're going to reuse these existing connecting rod bolts. Anyway, the sequence goes as follows. Step 1, 2, 3, and 4. We tighten it to 8 Newton meters or 6 foot-pounds of torque, 20 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds of torque on the second pass, 40 Newton meters or 30 foot-pounds of torque on the third pass, and then an additional 90 degrees. So we're going to end up using the little clicky wrench and the beeping wrench. So first step, we're going to go 6 foot-pounds of torque, and that is equivalent to 8 Newton meters. So I'm going to run these. We're going to use Newton meters because this is in inch pounds and not foot pounds, and I don't feel like doing math. So it's going to be 8 Newton meters. So that's 8.5. So we're going to back it off. That should be 8 Newton meters right there. So one at a time, we're going to go through the ones that we have easy access to, and then we'll have to rotate the crank to get the other ones. So here's our first click. We were already pretty close. Second click. That one, unfortunately, was too tight. Let's back it off, try again. It's probably fairly inconsequential, but I'd like to at least follow procedure here. That one's too tight, so we'll back it off. Okay, that's our first pass at 8. Second pass, I believe, was 15 foot-pounds. So that's 20 Newton meters. So let's scale this up to 20. 20. That's way up there on the scale. And now we're getting to actual torque that is significant of some sort. That 6 foot-pounds was minuscule and meaningless. All right, here's our 20. 20. Okay, 20 all the way around. Okay, the next one, that's scaling up to, I believe, 30 foot-pounds of torque, and that is going to be 40 Newton meters. So we're scaling up the torque wrench to the 3/8, and this one's going to give us some actual clicks. So we're going up to 30 foot-pounds. There we go, that's our first set. So now we need to put 90 degrees of rotation for our fourth step on these bolts, and then these will be torqued to specified specifications. Alrighty, so to run the 90 degrees, we can do this a couple ways. We can just kind of mark it and then eyeball it, which does work, but since I have digitized torque wrenches these days, I can utilize the digital wrench. So I've got her set up to 90 degrees. We'll reset this, set to 0, or no, I'm sorry, 90, and it's gonna beep at us when we reach our 90-degree threshold. So here we go. Coming in 90 degrees. There's 90. Reset. 90 again. There we go. Reset. Sort of. I have to reset it once it's set up in position here. Now I'm not totally relying on this, so I'm actually setting this wrench up so when I turn 90, I know it's approximately 90. That way if there's an error in the wrench, I don't do something incorrectly because I'm relying on the tool and not my brain. So for example, 90 degrees is right about here. So if we don't start beeping right here, then I know the tool had an error. And I'd hate to over torque a fastener over an error. There's 90. Very good. So that first set is torqued. Let's rotate this around, get to the next set, and we'll just keep on moving until they're all tight. Alrighty, this set is done, so let's throw some paint on there so we know. Okay, all those are torqued to the specified specification. Let's reach on down again on the front of the crank. We're gonna spin this guy around and get the next set and repeat procedure. And since we're gonna get good at this, since we know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're gonna do it, it means we can do it a little bit faster on this next go around. Sound good? I think so. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna cheat and we're gonna skip over that 6 foot-pound / 8 Newton-meter spec. I can feel it. That's that. It's remarkably small. That's to make sure that these caps go down even and that you can't put them on sideways. So we've got even pre-clamping, tightening specs. So let's just start with actual torque specs. We're gonna go with 20 Newton meters here. There we go. Do-do-do-do-do. There goes the time clock. Doodly-doo. Actually, I don't even know if you guys can hear the time clock. Do-do-do-do-do. It's far away. And I think I have the noise canceling turned on these microphones, so maybe you can't hear it. Let me know if you can hear that time clock. Anyway, we're on our 3/8 clicky wrench. We're coming up to 40 Newton meters, that's 30 foot-pounds of torque. Very good. And we're gonna switch out the socket one more time because we're gonna do our 90-degree measurement next. Time for our angle sequence. 90 degrees. Tool is reset. Here we go. $90 right there. Reset the tool. 90 degrees should be right here. Oh, it's not beeping. Oh, there it is, 90. See that? We have tool errors. Trying again. Tool reset. 90's ready to rock and roll. I think I had the little speaker turned off. 80. 90. Here we go. $90. Beautiful. Okay, those guys are torqued to the specified specification. Give it some paint so we know. Beautiful. All right, rotating the crank one more time. Let's get this next set up at the top where we can reach it. There we go. 20 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds of torque. Just pre-snug these up. That's our first stage. Okay, switching out. We're looking for 30 foot-pounds of torque on this next one. That's 30 and 30. Get my socket back. Come here, socket. We're doing these at 90 yet again. Torque wrench cam returns set at 90. We're zeroed out. Begin torquing 90 degrees now. There it is. Reset. Hit the button. Right there. Beautiful. Hit the button, reset, 0, ready to rock and roll. $90. That's what's up. Last reset, here we go. Is that it? 90? 89? There we are, 90 degrees. Okay, next set, last set, this set that is torqued. Let's fetch the little pen here. We'll paint it up. Torqued, 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 and torqued again. Beautiful. Okay, spinning it around once more. Got the wrench on the crank. That's what we're looking for. Back down to 15. There we go. And where'd the other wrench go? Oh, right in front of me. Next one's going to be 30. Preset to 30. Excellent. Okay, last round, here we go. You guys keep an eyeball on that gauge for me. There, now you can see. Here we go. That's it. Bolt number 2. $91, oh, it ruined it. That's it. Last one. Last one, boys. Man. Hang on. Back it off. That one malfunctioned. So back to the 30 foot-pound wrench. I need to back this one back off and then re-torque it to 30. I backed it off already. not enough. Okay. Back to 30 again. There it is. Okay, 90 one more time. That's it. Got it. Okay. Okay, so before we proceed and attempt to hang this chain, I actually need to remove this crankshaft sprocket right here, which is pressed onto the crankshaft snout, and it's fitted in with a woodruff key. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right about there. Anyway, we have a new one, so this one has to go away. I have to pull it off with a puller, because like I said, the thing is it's pressed on and it's interference fit. So asking it nicely to come off is not really an option. So what I'll do is take this puller here and I'll run the threaded portion of the puller with this my ratchet here. Yep, broke it free. Now it's just gonna slide this this gear right off the edge here. Oh, I'm pulling kind of sideways with my puller. There we go, she's loose. So now I need to get the crank bolt out of it. Knock that loose. And that is our crankshaft sprocket for the timing chain. Woodruff key right there in the crank. We'll leave that alone. Slide the new one on, press it on with the crank bolt, and we're good to go. Let's make a quick comparison here to make sure this is the correct unit. It has the appropriate number of teeth. The keys line up. The oil pump drive keyways all line up. We're good to go. Let's get the new one in position. And you can't clock it wrong because it's got that keyway. So what I'm gonna do is I will use, oh, it's not gonna reach. That's fine. Just tap it on in there. Oh my God, you're doing it wrong. There we go. Installed, good to go. No problem. Okay, down a little lower. Let's go ahead and get this cam gear pulled off of here. Cam gear has to go away in order to get, in order to hang the chain on there. So what I need to do actually is we're gonna rotate the crank around, so I'll put the nut back in it. Bolt, fastener, crank fastener, put that back. Then we're gonna rotate this guy around. We have to get all the marks lined up. So we've got a mark right here on the cam gear, right? And there's a little mark right there on the crank gear. So we need to get all those guys in line, pointed at each other. There's some more illuminations. There we go. We have to point those marks at each other, and that's how you time this engine. So we just spin her around. We'll see that little dot come around here. And there it is, 2 dots pointed at each other. You guys see it? So now that engine's in time, let's pull these cam gears back out. There we go. Or cam gear bolts back out, rather. Why are you revving your minivan? It was knocking? I don't know. Yeah, let's figure this out real quick. Okay, so with the gear removed, the van wasn't knocking. She heard the AC compressor, by the way. With the gear removed, what we do is we hang it off the chain and then hang that chain on the crank, making sure we're in line with our little dots right there. Now, this cam gear should be lining up, but I think I've got it out of time. Yeah, it's actually a lot out of time. How did I do that? Let's just rotate the cam until it's lined up again. Aye, the cam went backwards in the block some. Sneaky little guy. Try to pull the cam back out. There it is. So we rotate it. See that? Now we're in line. So the cam is lined up with the cam gear using its little key here. And we're in line up at the crank, so pull the gear back off. Hang the gear on the crank. That's all in line like it should be. Slide that bolt back in so I can catch the cam so it doesn't slide out of the back of the block again. We run this down some. And now the camshaft is in time with the crankshaft. Okay, one more time with the torque wrench. We're looking for 18 foot-pounds of torque. Hold the gear in position. The motor's trying to roll. Hang on, let me pin the engine. It's not working for me. There. Try this again. Engine is pinned so it can't rotate on the stand. £18. Good to go. Cam is torqued. Woohoo! And since we disturbed these, throw a little bit more. Oh, that was a lot of paint. A little bit more paint on there just so we know that, hey, that's all torqued. There we go. All right, so before we're done under the timing cover, we've got one more item to install, and that's this chain guide right here. It comes with this particular generation of LS. Slide that guy in, 2 bolts, tighten them down, stay. Seriously? You did not listen to me. What am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know. Very good. Good to go. Okay, let's see how she turns. Oh, that's beautiful. Sweet locomotion. Cool beans. All right, fellas. I think that will be sufficient to complete this phase of this project. Next time around, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna throw this front cover on here. We'll throw the oil pan back on there, roll this guy over, and then we'll drop the cylinder heads and new head gaskets on this unit, get those bolted up and torqued down. And eventually, at some point in this vehicle's repair, we're gonna get this thing back inside of the inside of the car. So stay tuned for the next one, guys. I appreciate y'all being here to the end of this video. Hit that like and subscribe button down at the bottom of the page before you go. And most importantly, do not forget to have yourselves a fantastic day. See you guys later. See you in the next video, in a transmission.